So we all know that Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, is in full damage control mode, not just because of what's going on with Indiana Jones 5 and that box office and the lower foot traffic for the Disney parks around the globe, but also everything revolving around the latest Snow White backlash for the 2024 film after the leaked photographs actually surfaced on the internet and were confirmed to be true. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into the overall subject here, shall we? Now, we know that Disney and Bob Iger, the board, they're in a constant shakeup right now over exactly what to do with Snow White. Now, we already know that they have an emergency plan that has gone into full effect, and that has a lot to do with the marketing plan by cutting back on any of the TV spots, trailers, or teasers, whatever have you, to really reduce the backlash down to a bare minimum ahead of its March of 2024 release date window. However, this is where things begin to get very intense because Disney canceled and sabotaged many different aspects of the Snow White 2024 movie, ranging from a specific ending to a very big thing revolving around the Seven Dwarfs. Let's get right into it right now. So, one thing about Bob Iger and the Disney higher-ups is that we know that they wanted to play things extremely safe with Snow White along the way. Now, they wrapped filming back in July of 2022. It was a very tough production on their end because a lot of changes actually came out and about during principal photography. Let's discuss. Now, with Bob Iger dealing with the Snow White backlash, one of the major developments for this film will come as a huge surprise to audiences that grew up with the original 1937 Snow White story. Now, one major aspect that Disney canceled revolved around the Snow White 24 film had much to do with the Seven Dwarfs. The original concept that they were set to complete in 2022 involved a very accurate representation of all the Seven Dwarfs from the 1937 original to be adapted into live action, both appearance-wise and their personality as well as their voices. Disney was set on choosing unknown actors in the dwarfism community that held special voice acting capabilities and talents to accurately portray the Seven Dwarfs from the original film. However, rolling later into 2022, of course, this entire plan changed and a major redesign came through for the Seven Dwarfs in Snow White to play things extremely safe while also taking a stand on doing something artistically different than the original to provide fans a more realistic take on the characters. Not only were the Seven Dwarfs that accurately portrayed the originals were deleted by Disney, but director Mark Webb even fully supported their decision and change to go with a more realistic approach to those characters. The dwarves in the final version of the film are described to hold a completely different design, much like in the leaked photographs, and their voices and personalities are said to have no lineup or representation from the original 1937 story. Now guys, let me just pause here quick before we get to the overall aspect of the ending that they actually chose to cancel as well. Now, this brings me back to Sonic, alright? You guys may remember that they completely just made a horrible mistake on the design of Sonic. Well before the movie released, fans complained, they changed it. And in this case, it's almost like it's Disney going in reverse. They actually were about to do it right, and doing the right thing with the Seven Dwarfs, giving them an accurate representation of how they were portrayed in the original 1937 film, both looks-wise, voice-wise, and personality-wise, all were going to be done down to the T to be very much accurate. That all changed. It was all deleted and canceled on Disney's end because, well, they got scared. They got very much panicky over offending the dwarfism community, and that's when things started to change up. And even Bob Iger and people out there like Rachel Zegler out there supported this overall shift, and even Mark Webb. Now, if you guys don't know Mark Webb, the director of the Snow White film, he directed and created The Amazing Spider-Mans 1 and 2, alright? Now, though I think that he did a somewhat solid job on those films, even though that they got some form of criticism here and there, he was pretty solid with those movies. I wouldn't say he was terrible at those films, but he absolutely does not belong in Snow White 2024. It just does not work for him. It's not a good place for him. And you know what? sad but true, this is going to destroy his career as a director, as a writer, and everything in that sense. Even though he didn't write the story, he's only directing, just be aware about that. It is going to tarnish his career. But moving onwards here, back, of course, to what they initially had planned for the ending, is that actress Rachel Zegler also approved of this approach for The Seven Dwarfs by Disney, as she felt the film felt more edgy by pursuing this take on The Seven Dwarfs. However, now with the leaked photographs surfacing on the internet and Disney confirming that they are indeed real but not officially photographed by Disney, and fans have already boycotted this film ahead of its release, and Disney is beginning to head into damage control and refuse to revert back to the original Seven Dwarfs' accurate representation as initially planned. Guys, I will say one thing. They could easily delay this movie by one whole year, shift it to 2025, refilm The Seven Dwarfs, please, and just call it a day. It's not going to take too much of your time. I know that there's a writer's strike, I know that there's everything going on with SAG, but wait it out. Refilm it, put it in the movie, and there you have it. I guess you can't really refilm Rachel Zegler's, role of Snow White because that's the majority of the film, but so are the Seven Dwarfs, and they can work their way around that if they really wanted to take the time on doing that. They did this with Sonic, they've done this with Han Solo film, the Han Solo film, of course, by Lucasfilm, they reshot 80% of it. There is no excuse for them to keep this movie going and throwing it into that 2024 release date window. I digress. Now, on top of this, not only that, but Disney also deleted one of the 3 endings that were filmed, one of which was intended to be the final one, and beat for beat of the original 1937 story in which Gal Gadot falls off the edge of the cliff after the dwarves and the animals storm into her location. The whole lightning strike sequence was also filmed and was completely cancelled and scrapped. Now, we talked about that overall ending that has been chosen for the final film. We talked about that just 2 days ago, give or take. Go ahead and check it out. When we examine the 2024 Snow White movie, this just goes to show you that this is getting to the point where it's on an extreme level where Disney just does not care. They do not care about us, they do not care about you, they don't care about the fans of the original, and they don't care about Disney's legacy. We gotta all remember that Snow White really kickstarted Disney as a motion picture company. I mean, they showed everyone that they can make this animated movie, they can make it very much relatable to a wide audience around the world, and it worked. It really kickstarted their animated movies ranging from 1937 well into the early 2000s before they began doing all the CGI and three-dimensional stuff, right? So, there's a lot of things that Disney could do right now, but they're not gonna do. Number 1, they could refilm it. Number 2, they could delay this thing a whole year if they really wanted to, take the time to fix things, patch things up, and at least try and attempt to prevent more backlash than that's needed. You gotta remember that this is their legacy. This is Disney's legacy of a live-action adaptation of their first major success. So guys, drop a comment below. Fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.